Begin the Gemara today towards the bottom of Daf Lamed Beis Amud Beis, the last Mishnah on the Amud. Untitled Mishnah Shayfer shel Rosh Hashanah. When it comes to the mitzvah of Shayfer and Rosh Hashanah, so the Mishnah is going to bring a bunch of examples that you can't do anything to be mechalal the Yom Tiv in order to do the mitzvah. Ein mavirin olav es atchum. You can't go and walk out of the tchum to listen to the Shayfer. Ve'ein mefakchen olav es agal. You're not allowed to uncover a wall that collapsed and the Shayfer is there under it, so you're not allowed to go and uncover it to get the Shayfer. You're not allowed to climb a tree to get your Shayfer. You're not allowed to ride on an animal to go to the Shayfer. You're not allowed to go on and swim in the water to get the Shayfer. So all of these things that we mentioned till here are things that are asur midrabanan. So even though there's a mitzvah min atayra here of Shayfer, but nevertheless, the Chachamim left their gzeiris in place that you're not allowed to be mechal yantiv even with the Rabbanon to go get your Shayfer or to hear the Shayfer. And the Shayfer, you can't cut it whether you're cutting it with something in a way that's only asim with the Rabbanon, or you're cutting it in a way that it's actually asr min atayra to cut it this way, which the Gemara will explain what are these two ways of cutting your Shayfer. Right, you're taking the Shayfer and you're cutting it. If before you cut the Shayfer, you can't use it, you can't make the sound of the Shayfer from it, so this would be the malacha of makeh bepatish, the final blow when you're making it right to be used. But there is a way how you could do it with a shinui that it's not asur min atayra. Either way, you're not allowed to do it on Yontif. Avol, however, if you want to rinse out the Shayfer with water or with wine, yitain, that you're allowed, because this is not something which makes it able to blow from it. You're able to blow without rinsing it out, but you want to have a clearer, a better sound, so therefore you're putting in the wine or the water. So this is allowed. It's not misakin. You're not creating the ability to blow with the Shayfer. We don't hold back children from blowing Shayfer on Yontif, even though they're not obligated in the mitzvah. And blowing Shayfer stam is usually on Shabbos is considered to be uvdin dechayil. It's mundane activity, or it's even similar to when using a musical instrument. But we allow children to blow Shayfer. Avom misaskin imoen ad sheyilmedu. We can occupy them, we can do with them to blow the Shayfer until they learn, until they get trained how to blow the Shayfer, even on the Yom Tov. Another halacha zok the Mishnah, v'hamis asik loy yotza. If when you're blowing Shayfer, you're not really blowing the Shayfer, you're misasik, you're trying to do something else and the sound of the Shayfer comes out. And the Gemara Rashi gives two examples. When a person blows into the Shayfer and he didn't even intend to blow the full sound of the Shayfer, he just wanted to make a small little sound. But the full sound of the Tkiyah came out without him intending to blow that. Or for example, someone's just blowing into the Shayfer, not trying to sound, not trying to make a sound of the Shayfer. Maybe let's say he's trying to clean the dust of the Shayfer and he's blowing into the Shayfer, and the sound happens to come out accidentally. That's the concept of misasik. So you're not yaitze. Shimeya mina misasik. So the same is also if you're hearing the sound of the Shayfer from someone that was blowing as a misasik, he didn't intend for the sound to come out, you're not going to be yaitze either. So to Gemara, my time. Why is it that we say that you can't be doiche yontif, you can't be mechalal yontif in order to go and fulfill the mitzvah of Shayfer? So the answer is Shayfer esehu. The mitzvah of blowing Shayfer is a mitzvah saseh. V'yontif ese v'lois ese. But not being mechalal yontif, there's an ese to keep yontif, and there's also a lois ese not to be mechalal yontif. Ve'ein ese doiche es lois ese v'aseh. And therefore the ese of Shayfer will not push off the lois ese and the aseh. So the Gemara is giving here the explanation regarding why it wouldn't push off yontif to be mechal yontif min atayra. But the Gemara doesn't explain why you can't do a gzeira midrabanan, be over on a takana midrabanan to fulfill the mitzvah of Shayfer. But the Rishonim add to this that because min atayra you're not allowed to be deiche yontif, so the Chachamim came and placed their gzeiris in place also, as we find that Chachamim have a koyach to be oiker a mitzvah min atayra if it's b'shev va'al taseh. If they tell you, sit back and don't do something. Chachamim don't have a koyach to be oiker mitzvah min atayra, to go to actively be oiker mitzvah min atayra. But in a case where you don't have your Shayfer, and Chachamim are saying, don't go and do these things that we don't allow you to do, and that will prevent you of doing their mitzvah, that Chachamim have a koyach, as you find in many places. There's a sugi in Yevamis that speaks about it. Then it said in the Mishnah, Loi oilam bi'ilon, v'loi reichvin, al gabi beheima chulu. So the Gemara asks, Hashta de Rabbanon Amrit. If you're saying that there are things that are forbidden with the Rabbanon, you're not allowed to do them to get your Shayfer. So things that are awesome in Atayra, do you have to tell me that those are not going to be allowed to be done? So what exactly is the Gemara's question? So Rashi here explains that when the Gemara says the Oiraise, it's not referring to the Hemshech. When the Gemara speaks about cutting the Shayfer when it's awesome in Atayra, that the Gemara is going to address soon. But over here, according to Rashi, the Gemara is saying, between the things that are mentioned here in the Mishnah, there are some things that you're not allowed to do because it might bring you to do a malachim in Atayra. As Rashi brings, for example, why aren't you allowed to ride on an animal? Because you're afraid you might tear off a branch to use it to hit the animal. Why aren't you allowed to climb a tree? Also because we're afraid you might cut off something from the tree. Not all of the gzeiros in the Mishnah are connected because it might lead you to Isam and Atayra. For example, in the beginning, when it says not to go out of the Tchum, why aren't you not allowed to go out of the Tchum? Not because it's going to lead you to any Malachim and Atayra, it's a gzeiros with the Rabbanon. So what the Gemara is asking is, there are two types of gzeiros with the Rabbanon. A gzeira that Rabbanon said is not allowed, and then a gzeira that could lead you to Isam and Atayra. So the question is, if you're saying that even those things that are not going to lead to Isam and Atayra is forbidden, for sure something that's going to lead to Isam and Atayra should be forbidden. So why does the Mishnah have to say that too? Answers the Gemara, you're right. The Mishnah says one thing, and then it says, and needless to say this as well. Sometimes that's how the Tana speaks. This is the pshat in the Gemara here, as Rashi explains, but then Rashi finishes off, yesh gim gum bedavar. The lashon of the Gemara is not clear though, because the Gemara seems to be saying the Rabbanon, the Iraise, and it's not really something which is Menatayra. And then Rashi says, Nire be'ene de legerstin law. Rashi says you shouldn't be goyres, this last line of the Gemara, because the question doesn't really fit the way it's asking it here. Right to the Gemara says, it said in the Mishnah, you're not allowed to cut the Shayfer to size in order to be able to blow from it, whether you're cutting it in a way that it's only asam d'Rabbanan, or whether you're cutting it in a way that it's a isser min atayra. So the Gemara explains, mishum shvos magla. If you cut it with a sickle, which is not usually used for this, so then it's a shinui. You're not doing the malach in the regular way, so therefore it's only asam d'Rabbanan. Loisasa, when is it going to be a isam and atayra? Sakina. If you're cutting it with a knife that's usually used for this, to cut to trim the size of the shayfer that you could blow from it. So here on this, the Gemara asks, if you're not allowed to cut the shayfer, even with a shinui, when it's only asam d'Rabbanan, so loisasa, if you're cutting it with the usual knife used for this, and it's asam and atayra that I have to add, I have to tell you that that's not allowed. After the Gemara, this is the style of the Tana. He says one halacha, and then it adds, needless to say, that if it's asam and atayra, it would also be asar. If you want to put into the shayfer, rinse it with water or wine, that you are allowed. Zog the Gemara, you could rinse it with water or with wine. However, to rinse the shayfer with urine, which also apparently is effective and it's good for the shayfer, that you're not allowed to do. Why not? So the Gemara explains, Mani, who's our Mishnah here? Abishal, the opinion of Abishal. The Tanya Abishal says, you're allowed to cleanse the shayfer with water or wine. Meraglayim also, but with meraglayim it's not allowed. Mipnei yakovet, because it's not honorable for the mitzvah to put meraglayim in the shayfer in order to use it. The next thing it said in the Mishnah, we're not allowed to hold back children from blowing the shayfer. So the Gemara is now saying, what did it say in the Mishnah? Children, even though children don't have the mitzvah, but nevertheless, if they want to blow, we can allow them to blow on Yontif. Now, it only said children. There's another category of people that don't have the mitzvah. Women that are not obligated in the mitzvah. It seems like we don't allow women to blow shayfer on Rosh Hashanah. Like the Gemara Badvatanya, we learned in the Braise, we don't hold back not women and not children of blowing on Yontif. So we see that women are allowed to blow on Yontif as well. Now, according to Rashi's pshat over here in our Gemara, Rashi explains what's the issue of allowing women to blow the shayfer on Rosh Hashanah if they want to do the mitzvah. So Rashi says that because it's a mitzvah seishas man grama, and they are potter from this mitzvah, if they're going to blow the shayfer on Rosh Hashanah, they're over on Baal Taisif. They're adding a mitzvah that they're not supposed to be fulfilling, so therefore there's a problem. They can't blow the shayfer. Children, they're not obligated in the mitzvah, but it's not bal taisif. They could blow, they could be, they're chayiv and chinuch, and so on. We'll see soon in the Gemara. But for women, it could be bal taisif. So that is the question over here of the Gemara. Is it bal taisif or not? So the pshat of Rashi is a huge chiddush. Many Mefarshim point out that in such a situation, l'chayre, there isn't any bal taisif. Bal taisif is usually only for a person that is obligated in the mitzvah and he adds to the mitzvah. For example, if a person that's obligated in tefillin and instead of putting on a tefillin with 4 batim, he adds a 5th bias, or a person that's doing the mitzvah of lulav and he adds another min to lulav. But if you're not obligated in the mitzvah at all and you go ahead and do the mitzvah, l'chayre, there's no bal taisif. But Rashi here does say bal taisif. That's Rashi's pshat. There is another pshat in the Gemara, but let's first see the continuation of the Gemara. So the Gemara answers, Amar Abaye loy kashya. This is not a question. Ha Rab Yehuda and Ha Rab Yosi v'Rab Shimon. The shaila over here, whether women could blow Shayfer and Rosh Hashanah, is the machlokes between Rab Yehuda and Rab Yosi and Rab Shimon regarding another halacha. The Tanya will learn Nabraisa Daber al Bnei Yisrael. So this is a pasuk by the Karbonis. So it says Bnei Yisrael, which means Bnei Yisrael Saimchin. When it comes to the mitzvah of smicha, to lean on the animal before it's shechted as a carbon, so it's only a mitzvah for Bnei Yisrael, and then Bnei Yisrael Saimchais. But the Bnei Yisrael are not allowed to be saimech on the animal. They're not allowed to do smicha. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. In other words, because they're potter of it, they're not allowed to do smicha. So according to Rashi's pshat, the reason would be because it's bal taisif. They're not allowed to do it. Rabbi Yosi and Rab Shimon oimrim. Rabbi Yosi and Rab Shimon say, Noshim saimchais rishos. Even though they're not obligated to do the mitzvah, but never if they want to, they're allowed to do the smicha. They're allowed to be saimich on the animal, and there's no issue of bal taisif. So it's the same machlokes over here regarding the Shayfer. This is Rashi's pshat over here. Okay, but now in other places, and Rashi himself actually in another place has a different pshat. That the pshat over here is the issue is not about bal taisif. The issue of Shayfer and smicha is usually if it's a mitzvah that you're potter of and you want to fulfill the mitzvah, you can go ahead and fulfill the mitzvah. But over here by Shayfer, the problem is that blowing Shayfer on Yontif is really uvdin d'chayil. You're not allowed to blow Shayfer on Yontif. It's a mundane activity. The only reason you're allowed is because it's a mitzvah. But if it's not a mitzvah for you, then there's an issue of it being uvdin d'chayil. Similar b'negei to smicha. That if it's a mitzvah for you, so then when you lean on the animal, you're doing a mitzvah. But if it's not a mitzvah for you, so then you're actually leaning on kachim. You're having a no from kachim. It's meila. You can't put your full weight when you lean. You're supposed to put your full weight on the animal. You can't do the mitzvah of smicha. That's the issue over here. So that's the machlokes over here between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yosi, whether in such a case where there's an issue of an isser that could be involved, could you fulfill the mitzvah even though you don't have an obligation or not? That's the pshat in the Gemara that Rashi himself says in another place.
Doesn't have either obligation.
A what? A what?
Doesn't have.
Correct. And a chanami. Okay, we'll see soon. The Hemshech of the Gemara is going to talk about that. Here you have a very famous Taisvis. You see over here a very long Taisvis, just bekitzer. The point that Taisvis discusses is, who do we paskin like? Do we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda or Rabbi Yosi? When it comes b'zman hazeh, for a woman fulfilling a mitzvah, which is a zman grame, over here specifically regarding Shayfer and Rosh Hashanah, is the woman allowed to blow Shayfer or not? So Taisva says, from our Mishnah, it would seem like we have a Stam Mishnah here that says that only children are allowed, not women. So if so, we should paskin like the Stam Mishnah. But nevertheless, as Taisva, we paskin like Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi, we always have a klal that we paskin in Rabbi Yosi's nemuka yimoy. Rabbi Yosi has reasoning to behind him, so we always paskin like Rabbi Yosi. And here as well, women can blow a shayfer. And then there's a lengthy discussion of here in Taisus. He brings rayas to the fact that when a woman does a mitzvah that she's not obligated, she even can make a bracha. You might think, okay, maybe she can go ahead and do the mitzvah, but why could she make a bracha? She's not obligated. But Taisus brings a lot of rayas that even when you're not obligated in the mitzvah, when you fulfill the mitzvah, you can make the bracha. And this is, we paskin like this Taisus. Maybe it's a machlekes Yishainim. I think maybe but it's a machlekes. The Mechaber and the Ramah. But we paskin our minig is like this Taisus that women do the mitzvah and they make the bracha on the mitzvah. Right. And this Fardim paskin like the Mechaber that says that they don't make a bracha on the mitzvah. So then the Mishnah says that when it comes to children, they're allowed to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, and we're misasik with them, we help them learn how to blow the shofar. Amar Rabbi Laza, so Rabbi Laza says, Afila b'Shabbos. This includes even if Rosh Hashanah falls out in Shabbos. So according to somebody shining, what this means is, even though Rosh Hashanah falls out in Shabbos, and there's a gzeira that you're not allowed to blow shofar, because you might come to carry it into the Rishus HaRabim. But that's regarding the mitzvah of Shayfer, but not beneged to training children with chinuch to blow. Why not? In order to fulfill the mitzvah of Shayfer, you have to know exactly how to do it. So you might come to take it to a baki to ask him how to do the mitzvah. But to be mechanech a child how to blow, you're not doing it mamish exactly precisely. So over here, that gzeira doesn't apply. That's one pshat. But other Rishonim say that when it says here Philip b'Shabbos, it's not talking about Bisman Hazeh when we don't blow Shayfer in Shabbos. It's talking about what we had before in the Gemara, in the times when there was a Sanhedrin or there was a Bezdin, and they did blow Shayfer, even on Shabbos, and even individuals blew Shayfer on Shabbos, as long as they were B'fnei Bezdin, as we had before, according to Rab Zayda. So that's what we're talking about, that a child could blow on Shabbos then, but today you can't blow on Shabbos. That's how we paskin. Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned Nabraisa, Misaskim Behem, Achi Yilmadu, that we occupy with them to learn how to blow the shayfer and fill it b'Shabbos, even on Shabbos. So the Gemara weiter, it says in the Braise, ve'ein akvin atinoikes mulutkoya b'Shabbos. We don't hold back children of blowing on Shabbos, ve'ein tzarich leima b'Yontif. And needless to say that we don't hold them back on Yontif. So the Gemara now asks on the lashon of this Braise, ha gufa kashya. If you look at this Braise, the beginning and the end seems to be a contradiction. Amrit, in the beginning of the Braise, it said, Misaskim behen achi yilmud afilu b'Shabbos. We occupy with them to learn even on Shabbos. What does that sound like? Alma lachatchila amrinon. That means lachatchila amrinon tikku. That even lachatchila, we tell children, go ahead, blow shayfer. We help them to train them to blow shayfer. But v'hadet tana, what does it say afterwards in the sefer of the Braise? Ein ma'akvin. We're not going to stop them of blowing shayfer. A child that takes shayfer and blows, we're not going to stop him. Which means yikuvu d'loi ma'akvin. We're not going to stop him of blowing shayfer. But holachatchila loy. But lachatchila, we don't go ahead and tell a child loy amrinan tikku. We don't go and tell the child to blow on Shabbos or on Yontif. So the Gemara answers loy kasher. This is not a contradiction. Kam bekotn sheyigia l'chinuch. If it's a cotton that's at the age of chinuch, so then we lachatchila go and tell him blow shayfer, learn how to blow the shayfer. And kam bekotn shelo yigia l'chinuch. And what if it's a cotton that did not reach the age of chinuch yet? So over here, it's if he's going and blowing the shayfer himself, you don't stop him. But to go and tell him to blow the shayfer, that we don't, because he's not yet the age of chinuch.
He's not yigia l'chinuch, so what?
Huh?
He's not yigia l'chinuch.
Correct.
So what do you care if he's playing with the shayfer?
L'chatchila though, you're not allowed to give him the shayfer to blow, because he's lo higia l'chinuch though, it's a issa, it's ovden d'chayil. That's the premise always is blowing shayfer on Yontif.
He's lo higia l'chinuch Yontif, l'chinuch Shabbos.
Oh, that's your question. So there's a Tosfos actually, it's not here. The Tosfos says that he was higia l'chinuch for Shabbos. The age of chinuch for Shabbos is younger than the age of chinuch of shayfer. So he's a Giyel Chinuch for Shabbos, but not a Giyel Chinuch for Shayfer. Yeah, there's a Tosfos, I think it's in Erchen actually, this Tosfos, he says this. Yeah. B'chlal, when it comes to mitzvahs, the klal of Giyel Chinuch is every mitzvah accordingly, when he can fulfill that mitzvah. So Lamashal Lulav it's an easier mitzvah, so it's a Giyel Chinuch earlier. The Giyel Chinuch for Tefillin is 2 months before the Bar Mitzvah, our minig, and so on. Every single mitzvah is according to that mitzvah. The next thing it said in the Mishnah is misasik lo yotza. Someone that's misasik, he's blowing the shayfer and he's not really trying to blow the actual right sound of the shayfer, and it just comes out by accident, the right sound. So you're not going to be yotza. So the Gemara, according to the Bach, he adds there a few words. He says misasik huda lo yotza. So it's mashma from the Mishnah that only if you mamish blew by accident, then you're not yotza. But ha tikeya l'shir. But if you're blowing and you intended to make the right sound of the shayfer, Elamai, your kavana was wrong. You weren't blowing l'shem mitzvah, you were blowing l'shem to make a musical note that happens to be the same thing like the sound of the shayfer. Then yatza. Then it sounds from here like you would be yatza. So shall we say that this Mishnah proves what Rava said, that we learned before in the Gemara? Rava said that someone that blows shayfer and he blew and he didn't make the sound by accident. He blew the right sound that he wanted to blow. That's the mitzvah, but with the wrong intention. He blew it for a shiur, for a song, not for the l'shem mitzvah. So Rava says you're yaitze. So that's what's mashma in our Mishnah. Only if the sound came out by accident, you're not yaitze. So the Gemara, no, it's not a raya. Dilme toikeya l'shir nami misasik karile. According to Rava, not only if you blow a sound by accident is it called a misasik, that I'm not occupying myself with the mitzvah, I'm doing something else, even if you wanted to make the right sound. but it was not l'shem mitzvah. It was l'shem shiur. That's also called misasik. That means that you're occupying yourself with something else. You want to blow for a shiur and not for the mitzvah. That gufa is what the Mishnah is trying to say, that this is also called misasik. So from here, in this Gemara, there's a famous Magid Mishnah. He says that here you see what's the pshat in this whole machlokes, whether mitzvahs tzrichas kavana or mitzvahs don't need kavana. What's really behind that machlokes? What's behind that machlokes is what the Gemara is saying here. Should I compare a lack of kavana to an action which is done by accident, to misasik, or should I say, no, it's not the same thing, it's not on the same level. When you do something by accident, you didn't even intend to do the very action. It's mashenken where you didn't have kavana, you intended to do the action. Elamai, you didn't have the right kavana. That be'emes is the whole machlokes over here. The mandama that says mitzvah tzrichas kavana is telling you that if you don't have the kavana, it's equivalent to doing it by accident, and therefore you're not going to be yaitza. The next thing it said in the Mishnah was if you listen to Shayfer from someone that was blowing Shayfer by accident, lo yatza, you're not going to be yaitza. So the Gemara is medayik. So from the Mishnah it sounds like if you're listening to Shayfer from someone that's blowing for himself, he's not having you in mind. He didn't blow the sound of Shayfer by accident. He's blowing for himself. He's not having you in mind at all. So what's going to be the din yotza? From our Mishnah it sounds like you will be yaitza. Shall we say that this refutes what Rab Zayda said? Rab Zayda says to his servant, Ichavin utkali. Have me in mind and blow the shayfer for me. So in other words, it's not enough that you're blowing for yourself and someone listens. You have to have me in mind. So the Gemara says there's no raya from here because Dilma, maybe Aidi the toneration misasik, because the case right before this it speaks about a misasik. When you blow by accident, toneseifa nami misasik. So therefore it uses the term misasik here as well regarding someone listening from someone else. But really, it's not only if you blew it by accident that you're not yaitze. Even if he just blew for himself and did not have you in mind, you're also not yaitze. The Mishnah is just using the same terminology as the beginning. And as I mentioned, then we paskin like Rab Zayda. When you blow shayfer, you have to have the other person in mind. Unless it's a shliach tzibur that's blowing for everybody, so then automatically he's having everybody in mind because of his position. So he doesn't have to have you specifically in mind.
Every mitzvah.
Huh?
Every mitzvah is kiddush.
Correct. Yeah, by every mitzvah. Yeah. Zakteilige Mishneh Seder Tkiyos. Now the Seder, coming to the actual Seder of the mitzvah of what do you have to blow shayfer. So you blow shalosh, shalosh, shalosh. You're going to blow 3 sounds 3 times. There's Malchias, Zechreinis, and Shayfris. So you blow the Shayfer for Malchias, and once after Zechreinis, and once after Shayfris. And how much do you blow after each one of them? So in the Mishnah it says you blow 3 times. Tkiya, Trua, and Tkiya. That's how much you blow. Now, in the Mishnah here, it only mentions about blowing the shayfer in connection to Malchias, Zechreinis, and Shayfris. Our minhag today that we blow the tkiyas before Musaf, which is what's called tkiyas de miyushiv, is not mentioned b'chalal in the Mishnah, and even in the Gemara over here, in the whole Hemshech of the Sugya, when it speaks about the mitzvah of shayfer, and we'll see soon how we get to the way we blow shayfer today. We blow much more than just the shalish, shalish, shalish. But in the Mishnah, and the Gemara over here, it doesn't mention about blowing the shayfer before Musaf. So Taisus over here brings what we had before in the Gemara. The Gemara on Daf Tezayin says, Loma toikin umerin kishen yoshvin v'toikin umerin kishen aimdim. Why do we blow before Musaf and why do we blow again during Musaf? And the reason is to confuse the Satan, so therefore we blow earlier. In other words, really, the Zman of the mitzvah of Shayfer is together with the Malchi, Zechreinis, and Shayfris. That's when you blow. Not Minatayra doesn't have to be dafka with Malchi, Zechreinis, and Shayfris. It could be before. But B'Payel, that's when Chacham were misakin it, that it should be done with Malchi, Zechreinis, and Shayfris. Elamai, Kedela Arve v'Sasatan, we want to show the Satan how chavav the mitzvah is, so we blow it even before. Now the thing is, once you blew it before, you were already yetz the mitzvah Minatayra. So then it comes out that when you do the mitzvah, when you blow again the shayfer, during Malchi, Zechreinis, and Shayfris, you already heard the kailis, and then it's only a mitzvah midrabanan. But really in the Mishnah, it brings the inyan of shayfer in connection to Malchi, Zechreinis, and Shayfris. Okay, so that's how many sounds you're blowing. What's the shiur of the tkiyas itself? Shiur, tkiyah, keshalish truois. The length of a tkiyah has to be as long as 3 truois. Shiur trua, now how long is a trua? Keshalish yevavos. The shiur of a trua is 3 yevavos. Okay, that's the length of a trua is a yevava. Now what's a yevava? A yevave is a very short sound, like the shortest sound of a shayfer. Du, like a tiny sound, like when you make the sounds by a trua. Those very short sounds of a trua, that's what a trua is, 3 yevaves. Okay, this is Rashi's pshat in the Gemara, that it's just 3 short sounds. This is what's called in Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe brings this in Shulchan Aruch, trumitten, very short sounds, the shortest sound of a shayfer. But there's another pshat, which is the minig, the way we do it today, which is in Taisvis, the second pshat in Taisvis from the Riva and so on, that when it says here the shiur of a yevave is 3 sounds, so the pshat over here is each yevave is 3 short sounds. Each yevave itself is 3 short sounds. And then, what does it say here? The shiur of the trua is 3 yevaves, which really means that how long is a trua? 9 trumitten, 9 short sounds. Not 3, but 9. And that's what the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch says, that because Shayfer is a mitzvah min ha-Torah, so we're machmir today to follow the opinion of Taisvis that each yevave is 3 short sounds. Sagt the Mishnah weiter, Toka b'rishayna, if somebody blows Shayfer in the beginning, when you start, you blow the tkiya, trua tkiya, right? So you blew the first time, you blew one tkiya, and then umoshach b'shniya kishtayim. And then when you blew the second tkiya, he blew one long tkiya that's as long as 2 tkiyas, and he wants to use that tkiya for 2. Ein b'yodei ela achas. So that only counts as 1. This was brought in the Gemara before. You can't take 1 tkiya and divide it into 2. Another halacha, Misha Birech, someone that said the brachas of Malchias, Achreinis, and Shayfris. And when he said those brachas, he did not have a Shayfer. Va'achakach nismanu le Shayfer. And then he gets a Shayfer. Tekeya umeiriya, tekeya shalish pamim. He blows the Shayfer then, 3 times he blows the Shayfer the way he's supposed to blow, like you would blow when you blow with the Malchias, Achreinis, and Shayfris. Kishem sheshliach tzibur chayiv. Just like the Shliach Tzibur is chayiv to blow the shayfer, kach kol yachid v'yachid chayiv. So too every single yachid is chayiv to blow the shayfer. Rabbi Gamliel says, Shliach Tzibur maitzi es harabim yidei chayvasan. The Shliach Tzibur is maitzi everybody their chayiv of blowing the shayfer. Okay, we'll see in the Gemara. I will explain this. I'll explain the machlekes over here between the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Gamliel. So the Gemara. Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah. No, he did not have the shayfer. When he said the malchus, achreinis, and shayfris, he did not have a shayfer.
And still,
he got the shayfer later. And when he got the shayfer later, he blew then. Over there, we're talking even about a tzibur. Let's say a whole tzibur, the shul. They did not have a shayfer. And they got the shayfer later. They blow later. Zog the Gemara Tanya. But now, what did it say in the Mishnah? How long does a tkiya have to be? A tkiya is as long as 3 truas, it said. Fragt the Gemara, but in a braise we learned, shia tkiya ketrua. The length of a tkiya is like 1 trua. And as I said before in the Mishnah, there are 2 opinions about this. Either a trua is 3 short sounds, or a trua is 9 short sounds. But either way, it's only 1 trua. Amar Abaye says, Tana didon kachoshev tkiya de kulu bavi. Our Tana, when he speaks about the shiur of a tkiya, is not talking about the shiur of 1 tkiya. He's talking about the shiur of the 3 tkiyas, of all the three tkiya through a tkiya. So how long is 3 tkiyas together? So it's as long as 3 truas. Utruas to kulabavi. So he's saying the length of 3 tkiyas is as long as the 3 truas of the 3 times that you blow. Tana bera, but the Tana of the Braisa, kachoshev chad bave. He's speaking about 1 stanza, when you blow once, 1 tkiya, and the sulai, and not more than that. So he's telling you how long is the length of 1 tkiya, that it's as long as 1 trua. So that the shiur is the same. They're just talking about different things. So the Gemara weiter, then it said in the Mishnah, Shia trua kegimel yevavis. The length of a trua is like 3 yevavis. Fragt the Gemara, v'atanya, but we learned in the Braisa, Shia trua keshleisha shvarim. That the length of a trua is as long as 3 shvarim. Shvarim is a longer sound than a tkiya. Tkiya is what's called trumitten, very short sound. Shvarim is a bit longer than that. So how long does the tkiya have to be? It's like 3 trumitten or like 3 shvarim. Amar Abaye says, Boho vadai pligi. Here, this is actually a machlokes. There's 2 different things to blow, either a shvarim or a trua, and therefore there's 2 shiurim of how long the tkiya is. Because in the Torah it says, Yom trua yelachem. Now, what does trua mean? Umetargemin on the Targum says, Yom yevava, a day of yevava yehelachem, that it should be for you. Uksiv, so now we have to figure out what the word Yevava means. Uksiv be'imei de Sisra, by the mother of Sisra, it says in the pasuk, Ba'ad achaloy nishkafa, she's looking out of the window, V'tiyabev eim Sisra. And the mother of Sisra was Miyabi. What does Miyabi mean? Samar savar, So one opinion is genuchi ganach. It's like when a person is groaning and moaning, where the voice, the sound that comes out then is a longer sound. Omar Sava Yulula Yalo, that she was wailing, and there's a very short sound that come out, which is what the trua is. So here there's two opinions, whether it's shvarim or whether it's trua. And we'll see in the continuation of the Gemara later that's the minig that we have today, that there's the shvarim, there's the trua, and then there's the shvarim trua. Tana Rabbana, we learned in Abraisa, Minayin Shayfer. How do we know that when you blow Shayfer on Rosh Hashanah, that it has to actually be with a Shayfer? It says Yom Trua, a day of blowing, but in the pasuk regarding Rosh Hashanah, it never says Shayfer. Tamad Loima v'havarta Shayfer Trua. This is a pasuk actually by Yovel. It says that you should blow with a Shayfer. And the be Yovel. So from here I see only on Yovel. But Rosh Hashanah minayin. How do I know that in Rosh Hashanah the Trua is with a Shayfer? Tamad Loima v'chaydish hashvi. By Yovel it says v'chaydish hashvi. That's in the 7th month. Shein Tamad Loima v'chaydish hashvi. It's not necessary to say v'chaydish hashvi because it says there that you blow on Yovel on Yom Kippur. Everybody knows that Yom Kippur is in the 7th month. Why does it say in the 7th month? What it's coming to tell you is that all the times that you blow in the 7th month, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, should be compared to each other, that it should also be with a Shayfer. In the Torah it says Yom Teruah. How do I know that there's also a Tkiya, the sound that's Poshet? How do you know that you have to blow a Tkiya before you blow the Teruah? The Vahavarta means, it refers to blowing this Tkiya before you blow the Teruah. From where do I know that there's a Pshuta after you blow the Teruah? The pasuk again says the word Taviru, that you pass through. In other words, that you blow one long sound after you blow the Teruah. Again, these are all psukim that it says by Yovel. So the Gemara concludes, Veinli ela be Yovel. If so, I would think this is only by Yovel. But Rosh Hashanah minayim, from where do I know that this applies to Rosh Hashanah as well? Talmud loima b'chaydish hashvi. It says in the pasuk in the 7th month. She'ein Talmud loima b'chaydish hashvi. It does not have to say this that it's in the 7th month. Not Talmud loima b'chaydish hashvi. She'yiu kol truos chaydish hashvi zeh kazeh. I learn out from here that in the 7th month, all the tkiyas and the truis of Yovel and Rosh Hashanah should all be compared to each other.